Computing radicals. Use a calculator to perform the operation, square root of 61. In this course, we will compute radicals or square roots using our scientific calculator. You need a calculator with the square root symbol. Here I have a picture of a scientific calculator and the square root symbol is located here. All calculators work differently, so you'll need to figure out how to use the square root function on your calculator. In order to compute the square root of 61, some calculators have you push the square root button first, and then you type in 61 and push the equal to button. This online scientific calculator has us type in the number 61 first and then the square root key, and we get a decimal value. Now notice that I selected it to round to 14 decimal places. I always like to keep the most amount of decimals within my calculator because this is beneficial when doing multiple calculations. And this also prevents rounding error. But for this case, we just want to compute the square root of 61, and we're going to round to 2 decimal places. In order to round, we're going to take this decimal, 7.8102496759065, and we're going to locate the third decimal place, which is a 0. This place will tell me if I'm going to round the second decimal place up or if I'm going to leave it the same. Since this 0 is less than 5, I'm going to keep the 1 as is. So when I round, my answer is approximately 7.81. Use a calculator to perform the operation, square root of 44 plus 6 times the square root of 69. First, we want to compute the square root of 44. So you'll do this on your scientific calculator. When we take the square root of 44, we get a decimal of 6.633249581. Next, we're going to take the square root of 69. When I take the square root of 69, I get a decimal of 8.306623863. And notice that I left the 6 being multiplied to it. That's going to be my next step. So I'll multiply that decimal to 6. When I multiply those two values together, I get 49.83974318. Lastly, I'm going to add the two decimals together to get my final answer. Now I have a decimal of 56.47299.276. And I want to round this decimal to 2 decimal places. So I'm going to look at the third decimal place, which is a 2. And since 2 is less than 5, that means I keep the 7 as is. So my rounded answer is 56.47. The period t of a pendulum is the time it takes to move from one side to the other and back. A formula for the period is t equals 2 pi times the square root of L divided by 32, where t is in seconds and L is in feet. Use 3.14 for pi. Find the period of the pendulum of length 8 feet. So my length is 8 feet, and that means that L equals 8. And I'm going to use 3.14 for pi, and I want to find t. So I'm going to plug in the values for L and pi into my formula and solve for t. I have t equals 2 times 3.14 times the square root of 8 divided by 32. And my final answer is going to be a decimal answer. The first step is to multiply 2 times 3.14. When we do that calculation, we get t equals 6.28 times the square root of 8 divided by 32. Next, we'll compute the square root of 8 divided by 32. In order to do this, you need to use your calculator. So on your calculator, you'll type the square root button and then parentheses 8 division symbol 32 end parentheses. And you should get a value of 0.5. Again, all calculators are different, so you'll need to do the order of operations according to your calculator. Now our problem becomes t equals 6.28 times 0.5. And when you multiply those two values together, we get t equals 3.14. So our answer is that the period of the pendulum of length 8 feet is 3.14 seconds.